Well, as a sportscaster, whether you're an analyst or play-by-play, you just kind of want to absorb as much as you can about that particular league you're covering, so that you're not. This is my personal thing. I never was reliant on notes. I wanted to be more
Mm,
reliant on stock knowledge of what I knew of this player, of this coaching style, of this team. But that entails a lot of just watching and meeting them and talking to them, right? So, iba-ibang diskarte. There are other, analysts or play-by-play guys who love to have notes during the game that, they'll when they're talking about this player, they'll dig up a nice factoid of his history. Oh, he
mm,
grew up in, Iloilo, and he was coached by this coach in Iloilo. And that's pretty
mm,
that's cool and all that. And that's just not my personal style. I like to really uh, know them from their style of play and the way they approach the game. And I preferred to analyze what I see more than trying to bring all this, research from the back of my
mhm,
head. I want to see what I see and I'll react to it and say, hey, that's a great play. But you know what? What made that happen was a screen before that pass and all this. And I
mhm,
wanted people to appreciate the smaller nuances of the game as opposed to just being, oh wow, 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 oh my god, what a shot. And, any sportscaster can do that. But if you're
mhm.
able to mix that in with the entertainment value and you break it down for, information about the game and the style and the basketball IQ, then at least I feel that you give the viewers a good package of the show, what they can enjoy watching. So that was that. I mean, so related to the question of staying ready, yeah, I never thought I'd be ready. I mean, when I was thrust into the PBA as an analyst at
Mhm,
23, I'm like, am I really doing this? I was sitting beside Noli Ayala in my first game, and he was the Noli Ayala. And I remember
mhm,
it was Red Bull. I forget who it was against, whether it's Santa Lucia or something, but I'll never forget. It was even an overtime game, and
mhm.
Chris Bolado hit a running hook shot to send it to overtime, and Noli Ayala and I were jumping out of our seats, and like, oh my god, what I get? And then I was like, wow, what a baptism of fire. And
Mhm.
then a few games after that, I did a game in Iloilo, as an out of town game. I think it was Pure Foods versus somebody else. I forget who it was. And I felt the rhythm of the game so well. And I felt I really did well. And I got a phone call right after that from the late Ronnie Nathaniels. And he said, you know what, Iho, you did so well. He's like, oh my God, I think you have a future in this thing. I'm like, really? Thank you. Kind words from you,
Mhm.
sir. So it was right away. I got a boost of confidence from, the veterans who were there, who really helped me, from Noli Yala, Ed Pixon, and all the other
Yeah.
guys out there. And that helped a lot. But I guess I was ready in the sense that as a teenager, I would just watch the game also as from an analytical point of view, because when I would watch the games on TV with my dad, we
Mhm,
weren't much of the rah 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 fans who would be in awe of the game. Rather,
mhm.
we'd break it down and he'd say, "Oh, look at this Sicocho. He substituted this guy in the fourth quarter. He's gonna match him up with that, whatever." So
Mm,
I had
yeah.
a lot about that, and I realized I was doing a lot of analysis as much as early as a teenager already, and I
Mhm.
just suddenly did it on television with a microphone in my mouth. So parang it just felt natural to me. So I'm grateful that I had that rhythm of just loving the game from that perspective.
Yeah, I could relate to that also. Like, especially to my teams, like, I'm for the Boston Celtics kasi,
Mhm.
and pag natatalo sila, like, now, this year, they're struggling, like, I analyze the game, tapos parang ako yung, kala mo ako yung nagko-coach, tapos you wanna put in the player na, and all these things. So that's how I watch kasi when it's my team, like, it's very intense. But then, yun nga, parang ina-analyze mo, paano nagpipick and roll yung kalaban, ba't hindi nagsiswitch yung, or bakit
Mhm.
hindi nagsishow yung big, yung mga ganun. That's why
Yep.
I like that way of also watching the game, even local hoops. That's also how I watch it. And when you compare it to the NBA style of play, but
Mhm.
then you mentioned that you were one of the youngest analysts in the PBA
Mhm.
in your time. So what were some growing pains that you had at that young age, and how did you? What was the process like in overcoming it? Since you mentioned that the late Ronnie Nathaniels even said that you were eventually doing really well already at that age.
Growing pains. I'm just, for one, I'm thankful there was no social media at the time, because I'm pretty sure Paolo and I would have been burned on social media by people saying, "Why the hell are these two guys there?" Maybe because of their famous dads, Waka Trilli and Tommy Manotoc, cut them the job, whatever.
Mhm.
Admittedly, so our famous dads got our foot in the door. It helped.
Yeah.
Yes, we can't deny that, because who the hell are we if not for being the sons of of our dads at that young age. We haven't accomplished anything, but to stay there, that's a different
Mhm.
story. Because we had a lot of other guys that came and went. That some had a connection with this and that, or some had, was recommended by this and that. But then after a few games, they were so horrible, they were gone. So the fact
Mhm.
that we survived and had a relatively successful career for a very long stretch means we really worked at our craft, and we worked at what we had to do and learned the skills, the techniques, and the nuances of the game that we had as former varsity players ourselves, although we were not UAP stars. But I honestly think, I always tell this to my friends, I honestly think my time on the bench in LaSalle helped prepare me as well, be a better analyst, because I was learning, sitting beside the coaches and understanding, hearing things like that. So that for me gave me a different perspective compared to when I was in Ateneos in high school, where I played a lot of minutes, one of the leaders of our team, and then I had a
Mhm.
different perspective as a bench player, as a role player. So
Mhm.
I think that really prepared us a lot for the game's analysis. But in terms of growing pains, once in a while you hear murmurs here and there. Again, thankfully, walang social media na, may mga chismis-chismis, oh, nandiyan lang yan kasi anak niya ni ganyan, whatever. But then, I guess we let it, Pao and I were never talked about it, but I'm pretty sure he had the same mindset that we just let it fuel our desire and drive to be better and
Mhm.
prove them wrong. But more than proving them wrong, I'm always of this mindset of I just want to do the best I can, rather than
Mhm.
having a negative motivation of I'm doing this because I have a chip on my shoulder. I want to prove them wrong. I want to focus positive and say I'm enjoying this. I'm doing the best I can, and I want to do this as a service for the fans who really enjoy what I do. And one thing I learned in terms of growing pains, one thing you learn quickly in any kind of TV work that you're out there is that you cannot please everybody. There will be people who will like you. There will be
Mhm.
people who will like, okay, I'm neutral, and there will be people who will hate you. That's just the
Mhm.
way of the world in anything you do. And I would liken it to an art form. If you're an artist, singer, composer, or you draw
Mhm.
art, whatever, there's just a segment of people who will love it, a segment of people who
Mhm.
will like, okay lang, and a segment of people like, oh, that's ugly. Ganun talaga eh.
Mhm.
So I've never encountered any sportscaster, whether in the US or the Philippines, and absolutely everybody would say, oh, I love this guy, he's the best.
Yeah.
Kahit pa paano, paunti-unti dyan na neutral lang, and meron ding, I don't like it.
Mhm.
It is what it is, and it's fine. Once you learn to accept that fact, then you're good. You won't worry so much about, oh, I gotta prove the haters wrong. Oh, I gotta learn to please the haters, whatever. Although you still have to take constructive criticism, well, and and and
Mhm.
and dissect it from what points they may have said that you may have missed. Oh, no, okay, yun. But take
Mhm.
the emotions away. Don't get driven by the emotion of because they didn't like you and whatever. You sound like a frog or whatever it is, right? So,
Mhm.